G'day guys! If you've been wondering what is the most powerful Chaos Space Marine Legion, and if it's possible to run a list that doesn't include Abaddon the Despoiler, doesn't include the Terminators, and doesn't include a Master of Possessions, then this video is going to be deeply interesting to you. I got Dom on from Let's Talk Wargaming. He just came back from an undefeated GT win running the Creations of Bile, and he took none of these top meta units. None of those things that everybody considers an auto-include were included in his list at all, and he still managed to go undefeated, which is an amazing result. He won the event overall, so I want to get him on. We're going to have a chat, and we're going to talk through his list, his opponents, his secondaries, how he managed to pull off this amazing feat. So with that being said, let's just jump straight into the interview.
Look for the Blood God.
Alright, g'day guys. I'm joined by Dom from Let's Talk Wargaming. He's fresh back from a GT win with a very unorthodox Creations of Bile list. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, you know what, I've been on his channel, I have to bring him on mine and pick apart this list. Dom, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Yeah, I'm excited about this chat because we've been talking about chaos since you've been on the channel, and literally fresh off the video we made, I went to an event with a quite unorthodox chaos list and managed to do quite well.
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations. So you won the event overall, correct?
Yep, I was the only undefeated player after the 6 rounds, after long 6 rounds.
Yes, those 6-round events, they can be quite a fucking grind. So first of all, congratulations. That's an amazing result. And I really want to pick your brain about the decisions you made during your list and then the decisions you made in each game so that we can get a better understanding, share that information, and hopefully other players that are playing Creations of Bile or playing Chaos Space Marines can sort of, get some value out of that. So I guess the first place to start is just run us through the event. Anything specific about the event, the format, the size, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so the event was I think it was 50 man, and it was a 6 round GT at Hellstorm Wargaming, which is a UK YouTube channel where you got Mikey Herbert and the boys who basically go around the UK like doing streams for like Goonhammer. The YouTube channel is based on basically just whatever's hot new memes in the kind of like 40k universe.
Yep.
But they run their events at this place called Sanctuary Wargaming, and what's famous about their events is they have I think it's 5 or 6 different terrain layouts. So when you go to the event, you're playing on GameMat.eu terrain, you've got GW terrain, you've got player place terrain, LGT, which is the London UK tournament scenes kind of like famous terrain, and it's very good. It's very good terrain, and you got the WTC as well. So like the idea of it is that you shouldn't play on the same map twice, and you should, after every round, you should be like rotating by the way that they've worked out an algorithm or whatever. You should be able to jump to the different terrain maps, which means you can't tailor for one terrain set.
That's really smart because I see a lot of people when they go into an event, they want to find out what type of terrain is going to be in use because there's certain lists that are going to perform really, really well on the WTC maps that really struggle in player place terrain and vice versa. So knowing that there's a mix, that's actually really interesting. Yeah, so that's really interesting about the event. Tell us a little bit about your list because there's some really interesting decisions that you've made in there. So let us know sort of really brief what's in the list and why.
So I was playing Creation of Bile simply because I think they're the most powerful legion at the moment, because coming from a Harlequins background when Dark was like causing havoc everywhere, I thought Fight and Death with little tiny toughness 3, strength 4 guys was broken, and it was. Now you've got these big heifers with Power Fist, with like Lord Discordance, with their all of their crazy amount of attacks. You got Demon Princes, which are coming back to life with the flat 3 damage attacks, and you just got ballers of Possessed and Chosen and all this Final Death. That's savage. That's savage. And when I played when I played against my friend Lewis at an event and I was playing Drakari, I was like, I played him in the final and I was just looking at his list being like, you just counter over 50% of the meta. And
Yeah.
at the time it was combat meta. Now it's kind of twisting and swerving towards a shooting meta. But yeah, I was just like, wow, okay, yeah, this is broken. Luckily, I'm a Chaos Collector, so I have Emperor's Children. I've got everything I can convert into bile. So I was like, you know what, let's for LGT, let's do bile, and then I did well at LGT. So then I was like, right, let's just all the problems I had at LGT, I'm gonna change my list to make this better. So the reason I've gone for these choices are it's different because I don't think Abaddon, and you're in agreement with this, that you don't think Abaddon kind of gels well with Corrections of Bile because
Yeah.
their secondary completely counters what you want to do with Abaddon, because Abaddon wants to get in there turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 and just kill whole units in one go, go kill the Silent King, go kill Bloodthirsters, all this sort of thing. But then it negates your Creator's Bile secondary, which is 2 points to kill a unit, 3 points to kill a character. And if he's doing all the work in the later turns, you actually don't get the points, which is fine because you don't need Abaddon to be good. And I think this list kind of proves it as well, because for all those people who kind of looking for ways to not play Abaddon, I don't play Abaddon, and also I don't play the Terminators.
Yeah, that was the part that really like stood out to me. I was like, okay, this is a really interesting list. Like, I've been playing with some lists that don't take Abaddon because I agree that there's a lot of other options out there. But dropping the Terminators was also really interesting. So lots of interesting changes. So do you want to just maybe run us through the detachments that you've got, and the upgrades, the relics, what's in them, that sort of stuff. And then what we'll do is we'll go through each one of your games and we can sort of highlight a unit here and there as we talk through the games.
Yeah, sounds good. So, but, in Goonhammer, they said they thought it was a bold move for me to start naming my characters and also win the event. So, a bit of a flex for hobby as well. But I've got my Nurgle Demon Prince, which is an old grit and clean one.
Yep.
With little tiny wings, because I love Dark Souls and he just looks like he should be in Dark Souls. But he's called Nurgle Matthew, and he's got the Twisted Regeneration Warlord trait, which means he can come back to life
Yeah.
on a 2+ with D3 wounds. And for a unit that is going to be character protected for the majority of the game, it means that if I come up against matchups like Thousand Suns and they double Doom Bolt him or Mortal Wound him, all that sort of stuff, at least he can come back at the end of the phase. Or if I'm against Tau, I just throw him in the middle and go, cool, I'm just going to sit in this middle objective,
Yeah.
being like, you shoot me, then you go on the objective, you shoot me, then I come back and heroic into you. So it's those sort of tech pieces, and it just keeps him alive, which is really good.
Yeah.
Then he's got the relic for the Golax, or the Decayed, which is basically the anti-Abaddon tech
Yeah.
and anti-Katana, because he ignores phase cap and all the damage reduction and all that sort of stuff. So with his Hellforged sword, you're going to have 6 attacks, which are, or potential 6 attacks with your flat 3 damage, which when it hits, it just auto wounds as well, which is
Yeah.
just ridiculously handy when it comes to stuff which has like minus mortal wound
Yeah, it's really good
and
into those Chaos Terminators as well. This is just really anti-Chaos Space Marine tech within the Chaos Space Marine book, so it really helps out in those mirror matches.
yeah, exactly. So this is I was like, if I'm not taking a Abaddon, I need to take something that can kind of deal with the Terminators and deal with Abaddon himself. So this is why he's in there, purely to do that and to give me some War Ritual in the matchups where they don't have Psychers.
Yeah.
Then I went for Lemmy, the Dark Apostle, and no upgrades at all. He is just simply there for one job only, and that's the Illusory Supplication. No
Yeah.
marks or anything like that. He just does it for 2 turns and then just goes forward and just hits you with his mace.
Yeah.
And he's actually a baller in combat. People really underestimate the Dark Apostle, but he slaps like for like marine characters. If you're going up against them,
Yeah, he's
he
gonna
can
go.
actually do damage. I didn't feel the need to upgrade into Sinesh or anything because I was kind of very points tight with the sort of build I went for. So, and I found in because you can't double cast. I don't see a point to try and get the advance in charge because
Yeah.
with the Crash's Bar anyway, you just full send your army at everyone anyway. That is literally the
Yeah.
game plan. You
Yeah.
just go yeet. Which is a great game plan.
Same with the
Then we go
fights
on.
first. You don't necessarily need the fights first on him because he's gonna fight anyway. Whether he fights first or he gets killed and then fights, he's gonna fight. So yeah,
Yeah,
I agree that it's
I
not necessarily a must take on them.
yeah. Then I went for Disco Stu, who is my Lord Discordant on Hellstaker, and he is just the best. He is the best character in the list, and he is kind of the linchpin that kind of holds everything together because he by himself can just take out entire units. He doesn't need like a squad of possessed and him to go take out something.
Yeah.
With Flames of Spite as his warlord trait uh, and all of his attacks from all of his weapons, he just brings a lot of hurt with his mortals and sixes and real wounds. He's just so good.
Yeah.
And then because he is because of my LGT, I said before how I was changing my list to kind of the errors I had in my final game of LGT. I lost because I did try and win at all costs. Now move with the Lord Discordant, who then got killed on Overwatch. Do some melters with some sisters. So I was like, right, I know what I need to do. I need to make him tankier, just so he is still killy with the flames of spite, but then he is tanky, so he can negate some damage. So I gave him the Mark of Zinch, so he can ignore one failed save a turn, which is great because people never shoot him with small bolters to try and get rid
Yeah.
of it. They always shoot with like melted las cannons because they think, oh my god, he's got a 2-up save. I can't. He's just going to save everything.
Yeah.
So
And even
so
those AP
here's
1
that.
and 2 weapons, people are hesitant to shoot at him because he's going to get 2-up saves against almost everything. So people they wait for the big guns and they throw them at him. So Mark of Zinch on a Disco Lord is an absolutely premium choice.
Yeah, exactly. I actually found it had so much. Like it came up in every single game, and it would come up across like all of the turns where people would just be generally frustrated that this guy has this mark,
Yeah.
which kind of brings a lot of value to the list. And I don't think I'll play him not as Zinch unless I'm playing him with Emperor's Children because it's surprisingly hard to kill him,
Yeah.
especially with Gorga of the Eternal Hate, which is the +1 armor save, which makes him horrendous to try and get rid of with a 2+ save, with a +1 save, with an armor contempt. Then he's ignoring one failed save. Ooh, is real dangerous,
Yep. He's a
and
proper tank.
he's a proper tank, but he can also dish out a lot of damage as well, which is good. So that was the HQs. So I've gone for like two kind of like tanky characters who can take a lot of damage, with one that's coming back and one that
Yep.
dishes out a lot of like phase cap damage, and then the other one who can just take all your bolter shots with 2-up saves and he ignores one of the failed saves. Now troops, I didn't find out enough at LGT, so I went for a lot of troops, and the MVPs in probably the entire list in every single game is surprising. So I'll do that troops choice last. But so I had two squads of Legionnaires, one squad of Khorne, one squad of Sinesh. The Khorne just has the icon and chainswords. The Sinesh has the Malefic Tome, just so I can give Delightful
Yep.
Agonies to the Sinesh unit. And then if the Sinesh unit is dead, they also can do prescience to the Khorne unit if
And
needed.
were these big units of 10 or were these units of 5?
Just fives. That's all you need.
Little 5
Just
mans?
just
Yep.
Yeah. Because the footprint on my army is that I can only hide 80% of it, and it's honestly ridiculous how big this army is on the board. And you can catch these games on live stream. I was on stream twice on Hell's Game, and the commentator was saying like, Dom can't hide his army. Like if he came up against an army which is all guns, he would lose a lot of his army. And I would.
Yep.
But thankfully, I think I went first in four out of 6 games, which helped a lot. So yeah, so there were Marcus Sinesh Legionnaires, Khorne Legionnaires. Marcus Sinesh didn't have the icon because they just sit at the back, just do psychic powers, and then come up late game. 2 units of cultists, and they're just awesome. They're just 50 points obsec, and they
Yep.
just get in the way. You can wrap them in characters. You can have them on the edge of the board, just doing Tide Traitors all game, and I did that in every game. And then the MVPs, the Accursed Cultists. I
Oh.
went for 10 mutants and 3 torments, and my god, they're good. They are so annoying to kill because they regen every turn,
Yeah.
and if you just kill the mutants, they don't have to worry about the
Morale.
leadership.
Yeah.
So you just you basically every player shot them once and then went, it's just no point. There's absolutely no point. So what what I ended up doing is wherever there's an objective which is quite hard and is in the open, they would just be there. Or I would at the start of the turn, I'd have like one guy to the outside and it'd be like, shoot me, shoot me. And so they'd shoot him, and then it'd be like, cool, that's the one guy you killed, and that's the only one you can see, and they're feeling good because they start to thin the unit down. Then I go, cool, he's back. And it's the Necron creep you can do with them. It's
Yeah.
just so and you can bait people into thinking that they have objectives, and then the cursed cultists come back and you go bam, 12 points,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, that's
which
really
is
good actually. It's a nice sneaky
yeah,
trick. I like those sorts of tricks.
yeah. It's and it came up in every single game because I would always put them in the open. I would always make it like doable for me to get to an objective,
Yeah.
and I would like have like 2 on the objective. They would have then 3 on the objective. Then I'd pull 3 which aren't on the objective. Then in my command phase before we score, bang, 3 come on it. Now I have the objective.
Yeah.
It's just a target unit, and if you want to commit to them, 100% you go ahead. But then you're not committing to everything that's scary, which I haven't said on my list yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's get into the elites. You got some juicy elites, yeah?
yeah, so I've got what is it? 60 wounds of chosen,
Yep.
which is a lot. So basically, I don't like kind of the Terminator build because I played against it numerous times, and I worked out that you just kill everything but the Terminators, and they can't win with just Terminators on the board. And I come from a very MSU elf sort of game plan where I've just got overwhelmingly like models on the board.
Yeah.
So I went for a bit of MSU style to kind of finish off the elites. I went for 10 chosen of Marcus Sinesh with the icon, and that has the Black Rune of Damnation. And the whole idea of this is that they're the ones that kind of go up first, and that if the terrain has like a gap where I have to almost leapfrog between terrain, I'll put them in the hardest jump so that they're gonna have a minus 1 wound, 5 up Finna Pain,
Yeah.
and probably the illusory supplication as well. So they are just as hard to kill as Terminators, but they just don't have as good of an armor set.
Yeah.
But they are the same thing.
Yeah, I
Um,
think Terminators, they get to a point where the Terminators are past the reasonable threshold of being able to be killed. So it's like those chosen are hard enough to kill that people are not going to bother shooting at them. So if they were slightly more tough, that actually doesn't really add any benefit. So even
yeah,
though the Terminators are technically more tough, they're actually
yeah,
functionally the same.
yeah. I totally agree with you. I found that it felt like the exact same amount of firepower was put into the units,
Yeah,
and the exact amount of deaths would happen to what I'm usually used to with the Terminators. But I actually find the killing power of Chosen is actually a lot better
yeah,
because if you get those early turns of if you get like an early kill with them and then you get the exploding sixes, it's actually really really good. And there's a lot of they're very cheap as well. So for 10, this might not sound cheap, but for 10 it's 270. When for 10 Terminators, it's almost 375 or something like that
yeah.
if
It
you
turns
get
out to
given
be
all the
like
power.
80 points. So you could either get 10 chosen and a Rhino, or 10
Yeah,
Terminators. That's how I conceptualize it.
yeah, exactly. But well, for me, it's like a chosen squad and the curse cultist.
Yeah,
That's how I kind of but yeah. So I basically have a unit of 10 Marcus Sinesh, which are kind of the durable ones. and then they can also do the cheeky Sinestro strat where they can do a bit of shenanigans with movement. And then you've also got the beat stick unit, which is the Khorne unit with the icon. And
Yep.
so with Bile being +1 strength, the cursed weapons being +1 strength, and then Khorne being +1 strength, your strength's 7.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's so good. And like when you come against these armies which are like toughness 7 vehicles, and like my first round was knights, and it's toughness 7 vehicles everywhere. I was just like, great, this is wounding of 4s. And if I manage to save up my CP like a good little Chaos Lord, I'll be able to spend my 2 CP for +1 to wound,
Yeah.
and it's glorious. But yeah, so they are AP4 as well in combat, which is absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
And they are in there for Terminators, simply for Terminators, because if I'm going to come up against Abaddon and the big Terminators, I need the AP. So I've got my Abaddon killer, I've now got my Terminator killers.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the 2 bricks are chosen, and I absolutely love them. They are horrendous to deal with, and you've got like 2 turns to deal with them. If you don't, they're gonna really cause you some pain. Now, the whole process of kind of keeping the chosen alive is for the next 2 units. So I have two squads of 5 possessed, and their job is to be distractions.
Yeah.
That is it. They're to be distractions, so they're super fast. They can do like they can if it's like a big knight, I can screen kind of with them first, or I can get into the units that I can that are too close. I can get them with the speed, which is really good. And the 2 damage does help because they're the only thing apart from the characters which has 2 damage,
Yep.
apart from the power of the chosen. So they're the possess. Everyone knows what possessed do. They mulch things, and they're perfect marine killers. Great, but they suffer with AP, which is why chosen are there with the high AP.
Yes. Yeah.
Then after that, we have Rubric Marines with Warp Flamers. They're fun. They're fun. It's like pretending I'm a Demons player. Like, it's quite funny. And I managed to use the Auspex scan strat once.
Yep.
I did 1 wound to Sanguinary Guard. 1 wound. I was like, these were supposed to be like the main thing why they're in the list, so people deep strike. But it was the mind games that this unit had on everyone.
Yeah.
Was they were like, do you have anything that can Auspex scan? I was like, yes, I do. Do you want to go be Auspex scanned by the rubrics? And they were like, oh, what do they have? I was like, flamers, and they get Let's the Galaxy Burn. And they're perfect for killing screens. Literally the perfect thing for killing screens with all their flamers. But they're also insanely good at mimes for like stopping people putting stuff in deep strike, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I would say they were probably the unit that performed the worst in the list, and
Okay.
I don't think I'll be adding them into future lists. And it's just because they just weren't reliable, or people kind of worked a way to keep them always out of range, and I failed my warp time many times. And then the last unit in the list is the Warp Talons. Warp Talons, they're just fast. They get to reroll wounds. They're kind of durable as well, but they're just great. The Warp Talons are just great, and then that's the list. It's
especially
just,
I think the Warp Talons are especially good in Creations of Bile because going to Strength 5 with reroll wounds is so much better than Strength 4 with reroll wounds because now you're going into knights that are Toughness 8, and you're like, cool, well, I'm actually winning you on 5s with rerolls. That's actually not that bad. You'll actually chunk some wounds out of it. Whereas, your regular ones, which are only Strength 4, it's quite unimpressive. So I think Creations of Bile lean really well into those sorts of units. So yeah, that's a really cool list. I really like it. There's some really unorthodox stuff in there. You don't see many people, avoiding Abaddon. You don't see many people avoiding the Terminators. Almost every list that I see has Master of Possessions in it for the Pact of Flesh and Mutated Invigorations. You've gone past that. So that's 3 straight out the gate really interesting takes. Then the Warp Talons play, that's a good one. The Rubric Marines is something interesting as well. The way you've done your characters, it's all really interesting. So now what I want to do is I want to talk about your matchups. I want to talk about what faction you versed, what secondaries you picked, and then any key notable moments from those games. So maybe let's just do it in order. Kick off with round 1. Do you remember who you played against, what faction they had, etc.?
Yeah. Luckily, I had this all written down, so I can remember.
You're organised. I like it.
So, the first mission was Tide of Conviction. which is my favorite mission for Bile because it's the one mission where everyone just goes, I don't really like this against you because there's two objectives which you have to get to score points.
Yeah.
And being the army of just full send, it's perfect. That was the first mission, and it was player placed terrain at the Hellstorm Wargaming, which was fantastic because I had these huge like V shapes where in the middle of the board I just plonked one there and then put another one behind it. So then all of my chosen just go like that, and they're
Yeah.
completely unsealed.
Yeah.
And it was getting first drop of the terrain was really key. And for those who don't play a player trace placed, you alternate. So I just went bang in the middle with my huge bit of terrain, and he couldn't put anything within 6 inches of it, which
Yeah.
meant I had this huge area which was opposite one of his objective, where I just had a line which I could go straight forwards. So that was that, and I played Imperial Knights, and it was two big knights and loads of mini knights,
Yep.
and it basically was loads of -1 damage, loads of exploding sixes everywhere, and the notable thing from the Warlord was he had an invuln in combat as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so I couldn't take specimens because that's the go-to, and it doesn't work on vehicles. So I went bring them down, banners, like I did in every single game, and I actually went engage,
Interesting.
and yeah, and I maxed it.
Wow. Engage on all
Yeah,
fronts is like probably my least favorite secondary. But
yeah,
then
yeah,
again, I'm used to playing that more big Terminator brick style of CSM, whereas you've got a lot more elements that you can throw around. So I guess it does make quite a bit more sense in your list. And I'm
yeah,
assuming he probably spread out quite a bit because he probably didn't want you to just box him in a corner. So that
yeah.
would have meant you would have had units in every quarter doing stuff. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I was quite fortunate that he got first turn because then he moved up, which meant I could get my full engage because then I could get my charges off turn one,
Yeah.
which was super key. I actually it was after like a long drive there. I didn't drive, my mate drove, but I was being the chatty side man for 2 hours, and I was drained. But so I shouldn't have really gone engaged because it's not a very good secondary for that mission. But I think luck the luck kind of helped me with the
Yeah.
first turn. So I would not advise people doing engage on Title Conviction, and maybe something different. But yeah, it worked. It worked really well, and the game plan was just make sure I keep two squads alive in my deployment zone, which is fine. Cursed cultists, normal cultists,
Yep.
done. They're not be in touch for the entire game, and then literally 1,800 points in his deployment zone.
Yeah.
That's the game plan, and it kind of worked. Like it was a bit ropey for a couple of turns because I actually for 2 turns managed to only kill one knight a turn, and I was like, oh. And then the Disco Stu being the MVP of the entire game, he simply just tanked. He tanked. What was it? 4 mini knights in combat and a big knight in combat.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's the definition of an MVP right there.
It was the +1 to save that helped him out, and he basically charged in turn one, killed a knight, then piled into another knight to basically make a massive move block because he's a huge base.
Yeah.
And then the only thing he could do was pulled out. He couldn't pull out of combat, otherwise he'd lose a point. So he
Yep.
had to kind of weird angles and didn't really kill much, and then just went everything into the Disco. Disco survived, killed a knight. Then in my turn, I died, but fired on death, killed another knight, which is fantastic.
It's such a
Yeah,
troll of an army. Like,
I know.
versing it must be so frustrating because every time you kill something, it's actually bad for you. You almost don't want to kill the creations of Bile.
Yeah, yeah. It's when people work out when they're playing against my Bile secondary. Obviously I wasn't taking it versus knights, but it's like what you should actually do if you're playing against Croesus of Bile is you should suicide all your characters in one turn because then I
Yes.
can't farm you for points,
Yeah.
which is just the
And
worst feeling when you go, I'm sorry, I've kind of won already, but I need to keep you alive for 3 more turns, and they're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh God.
Yeah, especially if they've got Abaddon in their creations of bile list, which a lot of people still do. If they do, throw all of your characters into Abaddon in one turn and just let Abaddon shred them. And now
Yeah,
that creations of bile player is not going to get a very high secondary score.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah, so in that the matchup basically went is I kind of like hit a wall for 2 turns, and then everything kind of went my way when the two bricks of chosen went into combat at turn 3 and just went whoa, and it just killed all the little mini knights
Yeah.
and tagged the whole army. It was actually really tight because they're actually very good at scoring, and he was a very good player. And there's another you can tell they're kind of like they know how to play when they're also wearing team colors, and you're like, okay, this is going to be a good game.
Yeah, I actually reckon that wearing team colors has an overall increase on your score because when you're playing somebody who's not in team colors and they're relatively new to the game and they see you rocking up in all your team gear, it actually like has a little bit of a psychological effect on them, and they're like, "Oh no, he must be good. He's got team shirts." So my advice, anybody out there who's watching, if you're not on a team, just print yourself a fucking team shirt for just make up some team of one and wear it, and I guarantee you'll get better results. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, no,
But yeah,
so
so I managed to do really well on the secondary and primary game, and I think I have it up here. It was a win of some amount of points. Let's just say that I can't
yeah,
remember what the win was, but yeah, it was in the 90s. I regretted playing Engage straight away, but it was just a brain fart. Should have gone for Warp Ritual, which
yeah,
actually I would have scored less on. So probably a better choice to go Engage in this matchup.
yeah,
uh,
interesting.
so game two was I managed to get lucky and I paired down. I paired down into someone who just lost,
Oh,
and yeah, and it was
do they do random pairings within that sort of bracket, or
yeah. So they do random pairings, so that there's no kind of like tailoring your score.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You play people who aren't scoring as high. So I was playing a WTC terrain, which I actually found was my favorite terrain set out of the entire tournament. It's really good. Because there's basically two huge line of sight blocking terrain, but they're absolutely ginormous.
yeah,
And then they're like weird sort of like pyramids, which you can stack your models on, which is perfect for armor contempt. And my full takeaway from this entire tournament is his armor contempt is broken. Like it absolutely broken. It is too good when you have like 3 wound models like in terrain, all this sort of stuff, and like disco with armor contempt. It's madness. And I was playing Blood Angels, and I was like, your armor contempt's broken too, and it's yeah, it's too good. Anyway, I played Orcs, and he had an entire combat Orc army.
oh, beautiful. So it's a bit of a
Yeah,
cakewalk then, yeah. Like you just go in and you're like, cool, everything I kill dies, and everything that you kill kills you as well. So
yeah, it's exactly what happened, and it was conversion where you're not that far away from your opponent, and I basically, because of the big L's, I basically just put some L's there, charged 2 trucks, killed the trucks because I didn't want the kind of like the mega knobs walking into
yeah, yeah, yeah,
my point zone, and then I basically move blocked everything. So the good thing about his list was that he had a lot of points in his kill rigs because I think he had like 2 or 3 kill rigs, and they have a lot of points, but they're really good. But the game plan was I went banners, specimens as a spider, and I cannot remember the other one. I think yeah, I can't even remember the other one. I think I actually went engage again. I think I did. Yeah, another brain fart. But this is the one where it's you kind of like corner to corner,
yeah.
so engage is quite easy. So
Yeah,
and
engage is quite easy on that one.
I just had a cursed cultist just not dying for the whole game, just in this little corner, just
Yeah,
here, just like oh, this will get me all my points. And then my army was in his deployment zone from turn 2. So and I had a single chosen alive. I think it was from turn 2 onwards, which was just in a really annoying place that he couldn't get to, and it was just scoring me my full 3 for engage the entire time, which is
yeah,
fantastic. But it was so disheartening for him when he was charging his Mega Knobs, and you know, 1 unit of Mega Knobs killed 8 chosen in one go with illusory supplication, 5 up from the pain and -1 a wound.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's insane.
whoa. Yeah, he got all the powers off and strats and just slapped them across the board. But of course, then that unit chosen killed that squad of Meganobs and then killed the other squad of Meganobs, which hadn't fought yet. So
Was that the
it was a
Khorne
bit-
unit?
it was no, that was the Slanesh unit.
Oh, that was the Slanesh unit.
Yeah, and then I had the Khorne unit hit everything the turn after, and it was like he just I think that's when the beer started opening up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of the game plan, and it was a bad matchup for him. But he was a really nice guy, and he scared me when we were talking and just going wow, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm
Classic
not ready.
Orc player. Classic Orc player.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah, cool. What about your round 3?
Yeah, so round 3 was on stream. So that was on Hellstorm Wargaming live stream, and it was one of the probably the most brutal game of the entire event. More brutal than the Orcs game, because it was I didn't write down what mission this was, but it was one where you're literally 18 inches away from your opponent, where there's a big circle in the middle and you're in the table. And he basically he actually came second in the event. He 100'd all of his scores apart from this one game.
Okay.
And
so this was effectively the top table game then.
Yeah, it was. It was. It didn't feel like it, but it was. Right? So this is why. He had 2 CP. Okay? Phantasm is 2 CP. Pre-game, he spent 1 CP to put 1 unit of troops in deep strike.
Yep.
And this Harlequin was 2 max unit of bikes, then as many Void Weavers as he could put in.
Yep.
Apparently Void Weavers are back. Who knew?
Yep.
Who knew? Because he smashed everyone else. But he basically put everything on the line, thinking he was going to Phantasm, forgot he'd spent the CP, and I went first, and I got 2 units of Possessed, and a unit of Chosen, and a Disco Lord in combat turn 1, and killed 500 points of his army in my first turn.
Jesus.
Then tagged everything, and I'd probably kill about 1,000 points before he had a turn 2.
That's insane. That's a really good lesson he will never forget. If you budgeted to Phantasm, don't spend your points on other things.
Yeah, exactly. And so second I just went specimens. I went banners, as I do in every game. And then the last one, I can't remember. I think I boldly went like Warp Ritual or something like that.
Yeah.
It was something where I didn't need to do much. No, it was grind. I went for grind.
Yes. Because he would have had lots of smaller units, so that would have been pretty solid.
Yeah, exactly. So basically what happened was on stream, if you watch it, he goes, cool, they're kind of set up, and they go, oh, the Harlequins player is very close to the Croesus of Baal lines. I wonder if he's going to Phantasm. And then they go, oh, Dom's going first. Oh god, there's 10 possessed just 4 inches away from the opponent. Oh my god, the Chosen are moving. Oh, the Disco's up. Oh no, the De-Imprinter's up. Oh god. And then after his turn 1, because he was still in combat because of my turn, then he killed stuff. Like he threw was it 2 units of troop and his warlord into 5 possessed, killed them, but then the possessed killed them all back.
Yeah.
And that was his turn 1. His turn 1, and the Void Weavers didn't really do anything. But he basically, it was basically on stream they go, hey, where did his army go?
It reminds me of the old soul-bursting Yannari days when you'd kill something of theirs and then that activate and kill something of yours, so you'd activate and kill something of theirs. That's sort of how Creations of Bile kind of feels, where it's just like, I go in, kill a bunch of stuff, then in your turn, I kill even more stuff.
Yeah. And it honestly, he was a great guy, and we had so much fun, and he was just it just shows you how good Harlequins still are scoring.
Yeah.
Still scored 49 after all of that happening turn one, and I was like, fair play. Harlequins can still score.
Do you reckon
Like
if
they
he had remembered that Phantasm, if you reckon he didn't spend the CP and Phantasmed out of your turn one charge range, do you think you still could have won it, or do you think it would have been a bit of a flip?
I still think it's an unwinnable matchup for Harlequins
Okay, yep,
because simply because I was playing GW terrain. So I'm a contempt with all those shuriken cannons. You're
yep,
not doing anything, absolutely nothing. And his list basically relied too much on the Void Weavers to do heavy lifting. And
yep.
the Harlequins always take behind enemy lines and the Harlequins specific ones, so where they have to flip an objective and then be in your deployment zone. So you're getting specimens every turn anyway from just them scoring.
Yeah, because they're throwing units to you. They're sort of feeding the monster.
Yeah, and you always take grind against elf factions, so
Yep,
it's a very hard matchup. And if you need to, you can just sit at mid board on all of the objectives, being like, "Let's go,"
yep.
and they have to interact with you, which is what happened in the next game. So yeah, that was Harlequins. That was brutal. He was so fun to play against, and he 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 learned his lesson of the Phantasm straight away afterwards, and we did an interview afterwards, and he was just like, "Yeah, this is what happened, and this is why I lost it." And then
Yep.
he never forgot it because then he hundreded all his other games. So and that was honestly great. A true Harlequins player as well, wearing tie-dye Crocs and short shorts. So funny. Yeah, so game four. This is 3-0 at the moment. Game four going into Leviathan Nids.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
That can
So
be
they
quite a tricky matchup for creations. It can be.
uh, yeah, I the entire game I wasn't feeling confident, and I didn't realize how much pressure I was putting on him. Because my entire game plan was I took specimens, I took banners like always, and then in this one I did take engage again because we played data scry salvage, which was the
Yep, the
corner
diagonal.
deployment, and you have the four in the middle. My entire game plan was to sit on the middle objectives and not get into his deployment zone and just eat the 2 points, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points for engage. And my game plan was to just put all of my obsec at the back, then all of my chosen and possessed at the front of the objectives. So effectively, it because he just wants to stay back and just shoot me because he had double harpy, he had an exocrine. Oh my god, they're good!
Yeah, they
Bloody
are
hell!
good.
He had a shooting hive tyrant, which was amazing. He had a combat hive tyrant, which is amazing. Then he didn't. He only had 2 units of gaunts and some warriors. And so you send 3 units of obsec. Okay, cool. That's fine. I'll just do this game where you don't get on objectives. So that's what I did. I basically ignored the harpies, which was a horrendous idea because I couldn't do anything about it because I'm all combat and they're just flying around bombing everything and shooting everything. Um, but I basically just sat in the middle objectives, made sure I killed all his obsec, turn one and two. So then he could. The only way of winning the game would be to brute force me off the objectives,
Yep.
and I managed to max on my primaries after I think it was like 4 or 3 turns. The game plan then was to max banners by having all the banners on, and then just by playing the game, doing my specimens, and it worked. It
Yep.
worked. It got to the point where I got to I think it was turn three. He had no obsec left. He had just lost both his flying hive tyrants, his neurothrope. So I'd max specimens. I was on about I think turn one I had 4 banners on, and he'd only managed to get rid of one. So I was starting to churn the 3 3 3 3 3 a turn.
Yep.
And I put another 2 on, so I had 5 banners on the go. And I was just sitting there. I was just like, I'm not moving. You come to me. I don't need to come over this halfway line. I'm happy taking these 2 points for engage because you can't score any primary because you have to hold two to score primary. And the two objectives that were nearest to him, I just had my chosen on, being
Yep.
like, let's go. And yeah, it basically came to that we basically came down to he figured out he couldn't actually score any more primary for the rest of the game because he I think he went first as well, and he was just like, let's call it here after turn three. He was like, let's call it here. I can't do anything. Like your game plan worked. Every time I had to get obsec on the point, I had to charge chosen or possessed, which I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
I had denied his. I kept denying his mortal wounds stuff with the Khorne Legionnaires,
Yeah.
which was
They're
awesome.
surprisingly good for that.
Yeah, just for that strat, they're so good.
Yeah, no, that's good. Good to hear. Good to hear that the Leviathan Nids are getting put back in their box.
Yeah, those harpies though. Without having noise marines on my list, it's actually hard to kill those.
Yeah.
I'm a
You
bit.
kind of just have
I
to
mean,
leave them alone, and it's one of it feels so bad because they do so much damage that you just don't want to leave them alone. But I think you made the right call in recognizing that those harpies, while they're doing a lot of damage, they're not scoring any victory points, right? Because they're just flyers. So you can go, cool. I'm just going to sandbag these objectives. You can keep
yeah,
shooting me, and eventually you'll probably table me, but I'm going to win on the
yeah,
victory points, and that's what the game's all about is victory points. So yeah, no, good
yeah,
job there. That's really good to see. What about your
yeah.
round
Thank you.
round 5?
Round five, right? Oh my god, are you ready, listeners? Because this was an undefeated guard player not playing the new guard codex. The hell, man, all of us were like, we don't want to play this. How has he won so many games? What is this list? And
Yeah,
it was basically he's basically been playing guard for like 10 years,
yeah,
and so
okay. Bit of a
he is
faction
like
master.
exactly. And he basically had a list which, if he went first, would crush his opponents because he had three Manticores and then he had fully decked out Lehman Rushes. He had like two tank commanders, and then like three or four other big tanks, including the Manticores, which had demolisher cannons, perfect for killing Marines, and it's just a wave of heavy bolters as well. And he
Yeah,
had so much tech that he would just screen out the entire board so that you can't get to the tanks. Um, and it honestly, like Mikey, the owner of the event, was coming up to me. I was just like shaking with like nerves. I was like, I don't want to go second. I'm gonna get smashed. And we went with GameMat.eu terrain, and it was awful. Like this train was awful for the mission because the way it was laid out was basically you could just see everything. And
yeah,
my army had such a big footprint that I couldn't hide everything, which is fine. You shouldn't be able to hide everything, but I just think if the big L's were like this, if they were like this, I'd feel a little bit more confident. We chatted about the train afterwards, and we were all in agreement that maybe it was a bit too direct the line of sight.
yeah,
Um, but I was so nervous, and then I went first, and it was fine. Like it's like I just went bang into all the terrain, made sure everything was touching cover. This is where I found Armor Contempt being just ridiculous,
yeah,
because I should not have been able to have almost all of my units alive in cover in the mid ward in my turn two, because the Armor Contempt I was just rolling for like 4 and 5 ups
yeah,
constantly, and heavy bolters I was like 2 ups. Let's go. And
yeah,
it was just overwhelming how good the Armor Contempt was. But this was quite a short game as well. This was on Abandoned Sanctuaries. I went for Walk Ritual, I went for Banners, and then I went for Specimens. And
Ah, specimens.
no,
Even
I,
though
no,
he was into the, I was thinking bring it down into the tanks.
no, I went for Assassination because he gave up 26 points in Assassination.
Ah, guy, okay, because we've got the
Um,
tank commanders, and then he's probably got some company commanders and stuff like that running through.
Commissars, all this. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was it. I went Banners, Assassination, and I think it was War Ritual. Yeah,
yeah,
and I maxed it, and yeah, he shook my hand after 10-3, but we said we would. He goes like you won. We'll just score up
yeah,
and play very casual just to see where everything would be on the board, and we'll roll for all the important things.
yeah, yeah,
And but I basically, because it was turn one whiffing because of Armed Contempt, and there was a lot of trees everywhere. So he was -1 hit, and guard
Yep.
hit on 5s isn't the best. I basically was managed to hit all the troops, kill them all, and then go bang into
All of
all
his
of his
tanks.
tanks.
Yeah. Yep.
Their tanks can't pull out of combat.
Ah.
I did not know this. So when that happened, he just instantly went like that, and
Yep.
we go, let's talk it out. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, because it was that sort of move where you do it, and after you combat, you kind of move and tag stuff, and then the tanks hit you back, and then you go, cool, I'm gonna get hit with the main turret, and then they're like, they're blast. Oh,
Yep.
cool. I'm all good now. And yeah, I shouldn't have been as worried, but he was worried about the matchup, but it just it was it was good to see Guard doing so well at the event because he actually placed quite highly. I think he came. I can't even remember. He came like in the top 20 or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, he came 16th.
That's
16th.
solid with such an old codex.
Yeah, man. Yeah, really good player. But it was just he only managed to kill one unit of chosen turn one. And then after that, I had the possessed, which were free. I had the warped hands, which were free. I had the chosen that was free. I had the demon prince that were free. And I had the MVP, a cursed cultist, holding his home field objective. Managed to get like charges on turn two. I rolled like a 10-inch charge. I was like, yes, get in there. They're never dying. But yeah, no, that was a tough matchup for him. But yeah, it was a good showing for the bar on that one because it was just so fast and so tanky. And the main takeaway from that was that the armor contempt is busted. It just is. I don't like it. I mean, I like having it and I like playing with it,
Yeah.
but it's not good when you feel orcs bounce off you. You feel guard bounce off you. You feel Harlequins bounce off you. Like 3 armies shouldn't be able to just do no shooting damage
Yeah.
when they're shooting armies. Like it's not great. But yeah, so that was me going into the final with the only other undefeated player who, which was Blood Angels, and he'd just beaten Bile the game before.
Ah. That's interesting because
Yeah,
I find that the Blood Angels Bile matchup is heavily favored to the Bile. So yeah, interesting that he managed to win the round before. But tell us about your game into the Blood Angels. So top table game. I imagine it was quite intense.
it was. It was well. We both played each other before at big events, and
Yep.
last time it went my way. So he was ready for some redemption here.
Yep.
And last time he was playing Grey Knights, and I was playing Broken Drakari, and that was a good. That was literally we drew a line in the sand and went. We both. I think we both went Stranglehold when it was in the game. We both went Banners, and then we were like, whoever holds this middle wins. And it was almost the opposite. It was the opposite of that.
Yep.
So we played a mission I've never ever played, which is the Scouring.
I
I've
love the
been to all of them.
scouring. It's one of my favorites.
I've just never played it. It's never at any of the events I go to, or if it is, it's like the last game that's like to win this like super major. It's in the last game,
Yeah.
and
Yep. Yep.
it's just one that never gets put in. But Raf is an insanely good Blood Angels player, and to beat, he worked out the recipe to beat Bile the game before, and so I was concerned. Um, and this is on stream as well on Hellstorm Wargaming. And it's a super cagey game where he was basically trying to assassinate certain units, with his Death Company before, just to try and score max points in that. And he basically didn't do much turn one. Turn two, let me come up and then countercharge me. But it was a tough game. It was a really tough game. I took Warp Ritual, I
Yep.
took Banners and Specimens, which seems kind of like the go-to with this build. And I think my favorite thing I did in that game was had the Demon Prince in the middle with a Cursed Cultist wrap him, and then Cultist wrapping the Accursed Cultist. So you
Okay.
had two layers of OBSEC to get through.
Yep.
And after that, you had a Demon Prince, which can heroic into you. So it's not very appealing thing to charge. And then the other game plan was just full send, and that's what I did.
Yep.
And he was very good at move blocking with his move shoot move snipers,
Yep.
with the las
Illuminators.
users. And then Sangard. Oh my god, they're good. Sangard are so hard to kill.
Yeah, well, you're
And
talking about Armor of Contempt. They're one of the main beneficiaries of that, so
I did 1 wound to them with Warp Flamers.
yeah.
I was like, that's not nice to be on the receiving end of, and Armor of Contempt bad. But yeah, no, it was a good game. Like we both thought we were winning and losing at certain points in the game. But I managed to have all of my chosen alive on turn 3, and sacrifice my possess to kind of pin him back, and then yeah, I managed to basically swamp one side board. He tried to do the same but bounced, and it was a bit of that, a bit of like we both kind of did the reverse of each other, and I just managed to kind of hold on a bit more because the Khorne chosen are killing killing Sangard in combat, which was very very good.
Well, that 8v4 comes into play there in a big way.
Yeah, exactly. And it just because for the chosen, he couldn't just put 1 unit in. He couldn't trade. He'd have to put a Sangard on one side, Death Company in one side, and then try and tag the middle with like he had a Rhino or something.
Yeah.
No, Whirlwind, just to try and stop the consolidates and fight and death.
Yep.
But it basically came down to who could basically roll the better dice for killing, and that was it.
Yep.
And he played an amazing game. I tried to counter everything he did. He tried to counter mine. And it's a Cursed Cultist killing 2 characters. Interesting. It's interesting.
Sounds
Yeah,
like
it's
they
just
definitely were your MVPs, those accursed cultists.
they're so good. They're so good. Like I honestly would run max size squads of them after that.
Yeah.
Like they're just insane. They're honestly insane. They are a bit too cheap for what they do. And what they do is everything you kind of need to have as a cheap unit. You need it to be a bullet magnet and also a unit that's obsec and a unit that can come back to life and all of these things whilst you've got all of that horribleness hitting you to the face.
Yeah, yeah.
I just found in every matchup that the accursed cultists were winning the games because they were either holding objectives, even though they can't do actions, they were holding the objectives long enough and taking being a distraction long enough for everything else to get in.
Yeah.
And I just really liked them. I really really liked them. But yeah, they were the unit that made that potentially. I think it was them and the Sinesh chosen, which kind of just steamrolled an entire side of the board without a single one of them dying, which is nuts. I was just very good with saves. Those 2 units basically won me the game, and the Demon Prince being in the middle, basically heroic in like killing units and then flying over, killing another unit, just bouncing around after finishing his warp ritual. It was really good, really, really, really good. But yeah, that was that. And after that, I was the only undefeated player with Creations of Bile.
That's fantastic. So, I assume you got a nice big trophy on your wall now. You're happy.
I got this chainsword.
Oh,
Look at that.
nice. I love a
Look at
good
that.
themed trophy.
Yeah, yeah. He 3D prints the trophies himself and
Yep.
sprays them with gold. And the one everyone wanted was the wooden spoon because it was a chainsword handle with a spoon. And I was like, fantastic.
Oh, that's brilliant. I like that. That's a good idea. Yeah, so I guess we can more or less wrap it up here, unless you want to keep going for a little bit. Tell us maybe about some of the changes that you're planning to do with the list going forward, what's coming up on your channel, you know, those sorts of things. And yeah, what your sort of plans are for the future.
Yeah, so the changes I would make. So I know if you're a Chaos fan and you're watching this and you're writing little notes to try and think, oh, okay, this is a good idea. First thing I'd do is drop the Warp Talons, annoyingly, because I love them, and the Rubrics, and I would bring in 2 Venom Crawlers because
Okay.
I didn't have the. I just didn't have a threat which kept shooting armies honest because they could just be in the open shooting all that sort of time, and I would like to have 2 Venom Crawlers to basically be cheap and just have some shooting threat, and also have like buffs for psychic, and also they fight in depth as well. They're pretty good, and they're cheap for 5 points, and then I bring a Master Possession in. Because I felt, sorry, Master of Executions.
Ah,
I felt
yes.
like I needed that. I felt like I needed that,
I'm a
and I
real
was
big
looking.
fan of the Master of Executions because he's one of those things that people just ignore him. He's this 65-point character. They're like, I'm too busy dealing with this, 200-point Lord Discordant, his 200-point, Demon Prince. And then all of a sudden, this 65-point guy just comes out with his big axe and just goes, "Whoom, fuck you." It's like, he's really good.
Exactly, and there's also a bit of tech. There's a relic. I can't remember the name of it, where you basically choose a unit at the start of the game, and every unit that's within 6 inches of the Master of Executions gets reroll wounds against something. I might be wrong, but I think that's what I saw, and that would have come in that will come in huge when I start playing against Votan, start playing against Terminators, all this sort of stuff,
Yeah,
because then your Khorne chosen get even sexier, and that's always a good thing. So that's the kind of change. Drop those 2 units, bring in 2 Venom Crawlers and the Master Execution. I think there the list gets even more killy, if I'm honest.
yeah,
Loses a bit of speed, but it has the sort of I can get angles with the Venom Crawlers. The way you play Venom Crawlers is you don't force send them. They're kind of staying like around your mid backfield area because they're very good at shooting. They can get angles. They give buffs to your psychers. That's the idea behind them. And then late game, they go crawling up and munching and being everyone's worst spider nightmare.
yeah,
Um, but I think that's a good change. I think apart from that, I keep everything else the same. I mean, I'd love to go like 3 max units of a Cursed Cultist, but you do need to put banners up now and again.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's the kind of changes I would do. And in regards to my channel, I hello, I have a YouTube channel called Let's Talk Wargaming where I'm basically trying to be almost like a Joe Rogan of 40k, where I'm basically interviewing like all your Warhammer celebrities, like Mr. Dean himself, and get them on to basically talk about Warhammer, about the meta, about painting, hobbying, like we did last week was a Chaos faction specific one, which was really good, and we've had really good feedback from the community. But yeah, it's Let's Talk Wargaming on YouTube, and it's just our conversations, perfect for like commuter length videos, or if you're working from home or anything, like just check them out. And we just talk Warhammer, what's good, what's currently good, and good for painting, hobbying, and if you want to see my face,
Yeah,
that's
it's
that.
become a staple of my YouTube diet. Is every couple of days or so, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll chuck that on while I'm driving to work. And if
Yeah.
if the episode's not finished by the time I get to work, I just sit in the car and just be like, oh yeah, I'll just listen to the last bit of this and then I'll go in. So it's really easy listening. It's really good. I enjoy it quite a lot because some of the content out there that you see for YouTube, it's a little bit more like there's a specific agenda that's trying to be achieved in the videos, whereas I feel yours feels a lot more like a natural kind of conversation between mates, which I think is really refreshing. So yeah,
Oh, I
definitely if
appreciate
you listen to this, check out this channel. I'll put links in the description below because yeah, it's fantastic quality content. I like it. What about
it.
future events coming up for you? Have you got your eyes set on any future
Oh,
events?
yeah, so I've got Nottingham GT in January, which is a massive super major in the UK, which last time was like 600 people. So going to go to that because we're going to try and get 2 more events in before the end of the season. Because last year I finished 23rd in the world. I'm about 30th at the moment, so I'm trying to creep in.
Yep.
And my PC points from last weekend haven't got in yet, so we're still waiting on that. But I need to get 2 more super majors in, so I'm going to get Nottingham in January, and then I'm going to do Beachhead Brawl, which is another big super major in the south of England. So we get those 2 in, and then that'll be the end of the season. So we'll see what goes on. But hopefully, my team Vanguard Tactics will be able to get top 3 or 4 because I think we managed it last year. Because it's usually Glasshammer, Dice Down, Art of War, and Vanguard that are kind of the top ones.
Yeah.
And so we were hoping to have a good strong finish. But yeah, England's quite good because we have this big tournament circuit where every month there's a super major, and
Yeah,
it's
dude, I'm
people.
so jealous. In Australia, we don't get any super majors. We might be lucky to get one a year, and you have to travel. Like in Australia, it's like in order to travel from one side of Australia to the other, it's like traveling to another country. You know, you might spend several hours on a plane. Like, so I'm so jealous of even in the States and the European, communities. You guys get so many opportunities to play these massive events. And I think that's one of the things that helps produce such quality, content, quality players over there is because you've got that big, pool to draw from. So it's good to see that it also clearly shows that there's a lot of innovation happens over there as well because you've got so many players, so much going on. You're going to see every different type of creations of Violists, which is really exciting to see as well.
Exactly. No Abaddon and no Terminators are needed. You can win without them.
Yep. Yeah, no, you don't need them. You're like, what's the top 3 units in the Chaos Space Marine Codex? Nah, I'm just going to take all this other stuff and just crush everyone anyway. Yeah, so you should definitely be extremely proud of your results there, mate. I think you've done a fantastic job. You've shown everybody that you don't need to just follow the Goonhammer articles saying, this is what to take. You don't need to follow that. Think outside the box, be a bit creative, come up with something that works for you. And you've proven that it's doable. So that's really inspiring.
Thank you, man. Just take Chosen and Chaos Coalesce. What can go wrong?
Yeah. All right, mate. Well, thank you very much for your time. I very much appreciate you coming on. And we'll have to do this again soon. Maybe next time I'll come on your channel, or we'll just go back and forth. We'll figure something out. But yeah, no, it's very good to talk to you. And yeah,
thanks.
All right. See you guys next time. Alrighty guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to sign up to our Patreon because Dom and I continued to talk for about another half an hour after this, and I'm going to clip that off and make that an exclusive Patreon. So we've got the entire interview here on YouTube for free, but my Patreons will get that sort of extra little behind the scenes, and there was a little bit of conversation before the interview started that was quite interesting as well. So I'm going to put the whole unedited footage will be available on my Patreon. However, this conversation was a free one for you guys. So if you want to get a little bit more out of these sorts of things, head over to Patreon, sign up there. I think the lowest tier is $4 a month. So, that's like $1 a week. It's a cup of coffee, it's nothing. So yeah, check out the Patreon. And also if you want to show your support for this channel, you can do so by buying shirts like this over on my Teespring account. I'll put the links in the description. And also we've got, objective markers available that you can purchase, and I'm going to pull them out now for the very first time live. I've just got in brand new Blog for the Blood God dice. So we've got these little gold Chessex boys. I don't know whether you can see that very well. It's not going to focus. No, either way. Little red Chessex guys, little gold Chessex guys with the Blog for the Blood God logo on it, and we've got a whole bunch of other designs in there as well. There's some silver ones, there's some black and red marbled guys. I'll put up a fucking photo at the moment. Yeah, so if you want to get those, they're also going to be a Patreon exclusive. So yeah, jump over there, show your support. I really do appreciate it. And make sure to like, subscribe, notification bell, all that good shit. And let's fill the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of Dom's list. Let me know what you thought of his matchups, whether or not you think you could beat it, whether or not you appreciate the techniques that he had. And yeah, that'll do it for me. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.
Walk for the Blood God.
The Warhammer community suffers from some of the most prohibitively expensive essentials in the world, especially Australian content creators. Every single day, Dean wants to create content, but he can't. Suffering from old, worn-out brushes, expensive model kits, and costly software and equipment, he can't endure much longer. Just look at this dirty paint water. Would you drink this? Would you let your child? Even a small monthly donation can help provide Dean with clean paint water, basic tools for survival, and access to life-saving information and education. So please, follow the links in the description below and find out how you can sponsor a mad cunt like Dean today and end the suffering. Suffering that is cruel, unsustainable, and your fault.
Do your objective markers ever get lost behind terrain or other models and become difficult to see? Do they ever get bumped and accidentally moved during a game? And do they ever spark arguments about distances? Well, not anymore. Introducing the blog for the Blood God, not even remotely patented neoprene objective markers. Made from the same material as astronaut suits, or maybe military equipment, or probably neither of those things, this 2mm thick neoprene synthetic rubber is tear resistant, water resistant, and is designed to last. But that's not all. The blog for the Blood God, not even remotely patented neoprene objective markers come in a variety of different designs and styles to suit any faction represented in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. These objective markers are a perfect gift for yourself or a friend, and are a perfect way to flex and show your opponent that not only are you a smarter, cooler, and better 40k player than them, but you also have more disposable income than they do. For the low price of $25, you'll get not one, not two, but 6 neoprene objective markers, perfectly designed for 9th edition Warhammer 40k. But wait, there's more. For a limited time only, people who sign up on Patreon to support Blog for the Blood God as a Skull Champion tier $5 per month member will gain access to a custom design service where I will design a unique logo to support their gaming club, like the one I did to the left here for the Potato Farmers local gaming club here in Melbourne. Follow the links in the description of this video to pick up your set today.